Hey,
And there it is.
see? Look at how I transition like that. I'm a pro.
Woo!
Yes.
That was better than finger guns, just to be clear.
Okay, but we expect those at least once or twice during this, right?
I don't know. We'll find out. We
Okay.
find out. All right. So, hopping right in, huh?
Hmm.
So, today's topic, I think, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be in a world of AI in 2026, do websites still matter? And if so, what is their role? Does that sound like what we're talking about?
Absolutely. I think that's a nice like topic to square away at the beginning because probably a lot of people are asking that question right now.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I have had that conversation with so many people, a number of clients, just like, what is next? What's coming?
Exactly.
So here's my question for you, rapid fire, yes or no? Do websites still matter in 2026?
Yes, absolutely. And that's not a biased opinion. That's an educated opinion
Oh,
because I
okay.
build
Well,
websites.
hopefully, because we're going to get into it today. But I would also agree, like rapid fire, just a quick yes or no. It's definitely a yes.
Totally. All right. So why? Tell me. Educate me.
Okay, but first I have a really pressing question. So I was rifling
Okay.
through like my kitchen pantry earlier and I found Twinkies. And I just every time I see a Twinkie, it reminds me that in zombie movies and like end of the world apocalypse type of things, that Twinkies represent life and like a future, like hope for the future. And I want to
Right.
know if in the apocalypse you found a Twinkie, would that signify hope to you and would you be really excited?
That is the most random question I have ever heard. Um,
Gotta
no,
know.
Twinkies are gross. They are, to me, they represent like the most ultra processed that anything processed can be.
But that's the whole
Like they're
point,
putting
right? Because
poison.
like all of a sudden the world shut down and then the zombies take over and months later into this apocalypse, all of a sudden you raid a store and there's a box of Twinkies and you're like, "Ah, but the old world still exists."
No, I'd be like, zombies are trying to kill me. Why would I put poison in addition to that? Why would I make it easier for them
Because
to
you
outrun
literally
me?
don't have another food source because your other option was to eat your co-host. So
Okay. Well, yes, in those dire situations and you just need the calories, okay. I'll give you that one.
okay, but also I don't believe that a Twinkie in the apocalypse would not be stale. Is my other hot take on that. Like they're just
Oh,
gross. I don't even for all their ultra processing. I just don't know.
yeah. Yeah, disgusting.
Okay, well that was a good segue. I needed to know. These are the important things.
That was not a good segue. A good segue is when you go from one topic to another that are related. Twinkies are not related to anything that we're talking about
Okay,
today.
hold up. In this conversation, we just talked about the fact that the old world we were like holding on to hope for the old world and that Twinkies were bringing us back to the old world. So I would argue that we are stepping from the age of the .com boom and websites, the old world, and we have this new world moment, the apocalypse of AI. And I think that that tied perfectly together. So what do you say we dig
Okay.
into the actual topic for today?
You brought it back. I'm convinced and impressed.
Full circle right there.
Yep.
It was hard, but I think it's there. Oh man. Okay, so we started this whole conversation with yes, websites mattered, and we felt really definitive there. But let's talk about the arguments for websites in an age of AI.
Hmm.
Where
Yes.
do you want to
The
start?
biggest one, in my opinion, is the the AIs still have to scrape and get data so that they can provide answers to people. They're getting that from the internet. And so there's this whole concept of if it doesn't get fresh data, it's going to essentially start eating its own tail and it will get worse and worse. It's something called model collapse, which is really interesting, actually, if you ever dig into that concept about how if it starts reading a copy of a copy of a copy of its own stuff that it's producing and not fresh, unique content from real people, its answers will get worse and worse and worse, until the point where it starts to hallucinate more and doesn't know what reality is versus what it already created, and then at some point it just ceases to be functional. That's the collapse point.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah, so super crazy. But so having your own website is the way for you to have your own unique content, and that's like your source of truth for your clients and for Google, because SEO is still a thing, and for the AI agents.
Man, I mean, that's a lot to unpack right there, but it is interesting because I think one of the things, at least one of the arguments lately in the world of like, let's talk about Chat GPT, right? Is, oh my gosh, these answers are terrible, or oh my gosh, this isn't pulling the right information. And to your point, if there isn't new information, it's building on what it's already said. I've had that conversation with
Mm-hmm.
Claude too, and it's like, we'll restart the whole answer. And I'm just like, no, we've already done that. Why are we still
Yeah.
talking about this piece? Let's keep talking. But on the other hand,
Mm-hmm.
I do think that we're at a like turnkey point in the AI world where there's just like, it's getting so much better. It, it, it is doing a lot better at answering the questions and producing content that is, I mean, somewhat believable and valuable, I think.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And the model collapse thing is not it's not a certainty, but I think that there's still a huge argument for just having your own owned content. Like that's like the biggest reason for me, is to have a place where you own everything.
Interesting. I mean, from a similar point, one of the reasons I think there's an argument for a website is it's still your digital front desk. Like we've been saying that forever, but it is a first impression and a source of truth for people searching for your business or businesses like yours. And once they land, like maybe they get to Google and there's, your Google business profile and they get to learn a little tiny bit about it, but they haven't made that decision yet. Like the reviews, the photos, all of that's helpful, but probably they're going to go to your website or your Facebook page or things that you have put out and be like, do I align with them? Is this product something I'm interested in? Does it have the features I want? All of that. And people are still going back to the website for that before they even possibly consider having a conversation with you as the business owner or an employee of the business. So I think that digital front desk is still hugely important.
Yeah, and you touched on an excellent point. You're talking about people getting in, like your website is the destination, but that's not the origin. They can come in from all kinds of different places, and those places are still important. The social medias, the YouTube, the Reddits and the LinkedIn's and all those places, they still serve a purpose for that first entry into your brand funnel, and then you want to get them to the website. That's where you want to lead them, because that's where the conversions happen, that's where the engagement
Mhm.
happens.
Yeah. And in this like AI driven world, the other piece of the conversation is your website isn't the only important piece right now either, right? Like there are so many people out there, experts and people in the field that are like, hey, actually your brand needs to be talked about in conversations that are relevant to whatever offering you provide. So they
Hmm.
want you to show up in things like Reddit and Wikipedia and answer the public and all of that, which I do think there's value there. I think that having your own website and putting the content there is a lot more valuable and will be more valuable in the long term. But I do think that there is still a lot of trust signals that come from those, whether that's a trust signal in like what you were just saying in the Facebook world to be like, this brand is active. Like people, me, I can see that this brand is active, or if it's a trust signal to the LLM machine. And to your point, continually feeding the machine, right?
Right. Right. And which is so interesting, because those tactics, they've been around forever. Like the overlap of SEO and GEO or AEO or whatever you want to call it. There's so much overlap, because those trust signals, those brand mentions, they've been part of the Google algorithm for years at this point.
Yeah, it goes back to even like the backlinks and how important those campaigns are. And I think backlinks are actually getting more important, which is crazy to me. Like we went from backlinks are the gold standard, and then they kind of fell off just a little bit because you could override that with how much content and like the good content that you were producing. And now we're back to a point where they are incredibly important for your brand.
Hmm. The whole concept of domain authority is, such a big ranking factor and a metric for Google. And I think it has a pretty large impact on AI citations as well.
Yeah. And I don't want to run off this topic of like why websites might be important without saying that websites are still your owned audience. Like that is your audience. You get to control it. You have full access to those people. There's so much importance on that where you're not renting space from a Facebook or an Instagram or whatever, like TikTok, whatever that platform is. You own your website audience. And to that point, there's so much analytics and reporting and like seeing how people use your website that never
Mm-hmm.
happens on social media. Like you don't know, yeah, okay, great, they liked it, they engaged with it. Those are great trust signals or like signals that they're interested in your product, but you don't know exactly how they're using that platform. And on your website, there's a whole bunch of robust tools out there that like you can actually see how somebody is using your website.
Yeah, the analytics piece. I mean, we'll talk about that a ton, I'm sure. That's the big one being Google Analytics, which is this amazing free tool that's been around forever. That I can't believe they. I mean, it's Google, so they can probably offer it for free because they're stealing your data from other places. But like Google Analytics,
Hot
Adobe
take.
Analytics, and right. But more recently, like we started playing around with Microsoft Clarity, which is also a free tool, which is crazy. And it, like what you just mentioned, it literally like anonymously records sessions. You can literally see what your users are doing, where their mouse is going, what are they clicking on, are they having any issues with rage clicking if something's not working the way it's supposed to, or bird nesting where they're moving the mouse around so much like a crazy person because they don't know where to go. Like you can follow these behaviors and really see what your audience, how they're experiencing your website. So analytics, super huge. I'm kind of an analytics nerd too, so I get excited about that. So
Okay, so that's a ton of arguments for having a website. But then the question is there a time or place when, as a business, it makes sense not to have a website?
I it's an interesting argument because I don't think that there's ever a time when it makes sense. Now, there are times when, like, for some people, it's not worth the effort. And I think in that situation, like somebody like that, they entirely rely on social media, or they're a really tiny niche mom and pop shop and they've got a Facebook page and that's enough. So, I mean, I never would say that it's like not worth it to have a website. But in order for some of these brands, they can function without one until they try and scale or,
Hmm.
actually build their brand up more than just those niche or those really small siloed areas.
Yeah. I mean, there's also this whole like creator influencer economy, right? And there are huge businesses being made and a lot of money being made on an individual level and a business level where, I mean, you start without anything, without any digital infrastructure behind you, right? Like you just all of a sudden pop on to Facebook or TikTok or Instagram or whatever your platform of choice is and start pushing out content. And you can make a
Mm-hmm.
lot of money and do good business that way. The question in my mind is what if those platforms change? What if there's regulation around the platform? What if for some reason people start falling off and all of a sudden you don't have that audience? If you pair something like that with a website, all of a sudden you have the power to collect some of that information and build your audience in a place where you own it. And I think that's really important and impactful.
Yeah, and something we haven't even touched on is like email marketing. You can't build that from a social media website. And like you said, social media websites, they're going to change over the years, and you can and should move with the times. You follow your audience. But like you said, when one goes down or stops being relevant, it's not like you can take all that data that you've gotten from that place and move it to the next one. Like you can't. But with a website, that data is yours. That audience is yours.
Yeah. But so this argument is coming from two people who build websites and for a living, right? So like I don't want to dismiss the conversation that's happening around is a website important right now in this age of AI? Is a website important because the LLMs are serving up answers? So
Hmm.
what does having a website and the AI search results even mean? Like I go to Google, I type in my query, I get my answer like that, and I never go to a website.
Right. So in that shifting world of what you call zero click results, or is when Google answers the AI overviews or Chat GPT, they answer it for you by taking information from not only your website but probably dozens of others' websites, and they find, is there a consensus on this answer? Then I'll present it to you. Sometimes they give you a link, sometimes they don't. But having a website means that you're one of those people that's providing that information. And so not every time are you going to get featured, or not every time are you going to get linked, but you still need to have a presence, because otherwise you're not there at all and somebody else is going to be.
Yeah, I think it's a interesting conversation for the past, 15, 20 years. Our goal has been to be in the top 10 results on Google, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden it's shifting and you have to be the answer. You have to be the one answer. And I think that's super important as we look at like what AEO, good SEO is in the time of AI, right?
Yeah.
But there's still so many searches on Google. I don't know. Do you know how many Google searches are like,
Yeah. Yeah.
are
There was, I
people
think,
using
16.
LLMs to search? Like, do we have anything around that?
Yeah, we looked at some data there. I think there was it was like 16.8 billion searches a day on Google, and I think it was somewhere around like 2.6 or billion for like Chat GPT.
So there's still so much search happening out there and opportunity, right? Like even if you have that AI overview, it's still providing links. There's still some people that are clicking through to the website or your link being in that AI overview. But man, I was having a conversation with a colleague the other day, and he said something like 58% of Google searches end without anybody actually clicking to a website, which is crazy. And
Mm-hmm.
that's like across desktop and mobile. And that number is so much higher when it's mobile. It's like 77% of searches never hit a website, which is
Right.
crazy. So I think that the question people are asking, is a website still worth it, is valid. But to your point, you have to be that source of truth and be part of the conversation so that you do show up in those AI
Mm-hmm.
overviews or in the LLM answer. So that's an interesting
Yeah,
little piece of the
and it's
puzzle, I
and
think.
it's and it's less about, like, obviously you want to be there, but because search behavior is changing because of these zero click results. So the zero click results are like more, informational. I want to find out about something. I want to answer a question. I want to do some research. So your website almost needs to shift in its content strategy to be more transactional. Like, I want to be a source of truth. I want to be an expert in the topic of my brand and my industry. But I also, when that transactional search start happening, when people say, I want to find XYZ service and XYZ location, that's what you need to be optimizing for now, because the answers are getting answered by Google and Chat GPT. And so, but when they actually try to kind of find you, that's when you want to be prominent. And that's what you want to show up.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, what you're saying is there's this interesting shift, right? Like websites are still important. There are still so many people that are getting to your website. There's still the personal traffic. But at the same time, we're not just like our audience for our website is no longer just humans. We also have to be writing and like making it optimized for bots. And so, the conversation about how you do that in a way that is still a good user experience for
Mm-hmm.
humans and then also provides the bots the information and answers they're looking for is super
Absolutely.
interesting. So, I mean, eventually down the road, we'll get into this, but things like schema markup and structured data. And I know we've talked about this, but like the too long didn't read summary at the top, like giving the
Yep.
answers right up front. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not just a good use case for the bots, right? Like, yes, the answers are higher up on the page, but it also gives your human audience a good idea of what the article is going to be about and whether or not that's going to answer their questions or they're interested in the topic to dig further. So it's just like
Absolutely.
a good experience on both sides.
Yeah. And it's so funny because, like, when you think about all this, it's just good SEO too. I mean,
Yeah,
the
right.
story has always been, right for your customers, not for Google. And that still applies here because everything that we're talked about is good for the user. Like you said, the too long didn't read. For example, you've got an LLM that's pulling information about, a bicycle tire quality or options or something like that. And you can have 100 websites that write the same generic content about bicycle tires. What do their treads look like? How thick are they? How do they last? What's the good road? Like, it knows all that stuff. Everybody knows that stuff, and everybody can write that stuff, especially with AI now. So how do you shift into being more unique? You become a storyteller. You have unique experiences that aren't spit out by an AI. There's something that actually happened to you or actually happened to your customers. It's all about changing the mindset of your storytelling on your website to be unique and show real, authentic experiences that just aren't boilerplate information that any LLM can produce.
I mean, you know me, I love the content creation side of things and like the writing and the figuring out the brand tone and all of that. So it makes a lot of sense. But anytime we're talking about storytelling, I think it's really important that you look at the more specific that you get with the story, the more universal that story becomes. And I think that
Yeah.
in this age of AI is actually going to be incredibly powerful to what you just said.
Yeah. So there's a content piece and there's a technical piece. They're both important. And
Hi,
they kind of have to work
Minerva.
together.
Goodbye, Minerva.
Love it. Love those interruptions. That's cute, Kat.
Yeah, no, I think this has all been super good conversation. And one of the things that I really appreciate about these conversations that we have is that neither of us are ever going to be like claiming to have all the answers or like, this is the path forward. And it's just fun to sit here and talk about the conversations we've had and the research we've seen and like what's new in the AEO world, what's new in the website building world. And I think it's just like this nice space of a conversation, and maybe something we say is helpful and maybe it isn't, but we'll have a little bit of fun along the way, right?
Right. There's so much fun stuff to talk about in the digital marketing world.
Yeah, and the topics are just, I mean, it's endless. Like we're talking about AI today, and maybe tomorrow we're talking about Google Tag Manager or something super analytical and nerdy there. So yeah, it's a lot of good
Something
stuff
for everybody.
Yes.
Oh,
all right.
One more thought wait. One more thought that I forgot about. I know we're over time here.
No.
That there's also been some research that even though AI like overviews and ChatGPT answers are taking organic visits from websites, the people that actually do go to the website, there's research that shows that they're way more engaged. They're spending more time on the site. And so there's this shift of like, don't worry about just clicks and impressions. Like think about engagement and conversions and what's happening once they get there, because the people that land there, they're more engaged. They're more interested.
It actually makes a lot of sense because we're taking out, if you think about the marketing funnel, we're taking out that top of the funnel, right? And so we're getting lower and lower in their intention to buy. And so if they actually get to your website, I mean, that makes a lot of sense that they would be engaged and are more likely to purchase or work with you or whatever the point is there. Cool.
Yes.
So key takeaway overall is that AI hasn't yet replaced websites, but it is changing how and who we're writing for. True?
Exactly. Yep. You gotta roll with the punches when it comes to AI. And so we've got lots of more specific and great discussions that we'll have about what we can do in that area in the real, to-do world, not just a conceptual.
Right. So we have the website and now what?
Yep, exactly. That's the next step.
And that was digital plumbing. Can't miss the finger guns.
Digital plumbing. No, mic drop. Finger guns and then mic drop.
Here, wait.
We'll throw one of those. There you go. There you go. I can't drop mine. It's on a thing, but
it's on a nice little. It's a little more stable. All right. Woo!
Good chat. Thanks for joining us for a little digital plumbing. I'm Dan.
And I'm Katya. And as always, we don't have all the answers, but we love digging into the questions with you.
Be sure to follow along for new episodes each week. If you love the digital marketing world, we're keeping the conversation going on digital-plumbing.com and can't wait to hear from you.
We'll be back next week with the new episode, but until then, Stay curious, stay creative, and don't be afraid to get your hands dirty.